Like what is that?
I got attack eradicator.
Oh, you can do this.
How's it going, Goomy Gang? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing awesome. And today is a fun video because we recently just got the JAK Devastators aftermarket part in Warzone and Modern Warfare 3. And this is essentially a dual wield or akimbo Reclaimer 18 shotgun setup. Yes, it's a thing. It is actually a thing. You can dual wield the Reclaimer 18. So we're going to talk about its potential, its damage and ranges and stuff like that, and share my overall thoughts. I'll give you guys a class I've been using for it, kind of the standard stuff that I always do. So if that sounds good to you, make sure to check the timestamps below if you want to hop to a certain part of the video, and let's just go ahead and start talking about it. And we'll start with the most important thing about this. I'm just going to get it out of the way. These things can actually two-tap, or rather one-tap. If you fire one each gun at the same time, you can down someone effectively with a 0 millisecond time to kill. So yes, we do finally have another one-shot shotgun, if you want to call it that, in Warzone. It's devastating, but it's not all biscuits and gravy, as you'll see, because this one-shot range only extends out to about its max damage range to about 2.3 meters. In the max damage range, you deal about 180 damage per Reclaimer, so that's if you two-tap basically 360 damage. That's how you get that one shot and over 300 health. But once you get past 2.3 meters, things start to fall kind of downwards pretty bad. So basically you deal 80 damage per shot or per Reclaimer from about 2.3 to 4.7 meters, give or take a few tenths of a meter. So you only deal 160 damage, and of course that means it's going to be a 4-tap, or rather like a 2-tap if you fire both at the same time. And then past that, I'm going to be honest, all I got was 60 damage, and I didn't test any ranges, because what you'll notice is past that 2.3 meter mark, like even after its max damage range, it's just really bad. This thing has quite a bit of spread, and no matter how many attachments you put on it to help it, it doesn't really get super tight. That's one of the big drawbacks to this, is that if you're using it, you have to be super close, basically get that one shot, or you're just not going to get the kill. Another big reason why this is so hard to use is because of the fire rate. Now, if you look in the stats, it's basically about 66 rounds per minute. So it's just a little under a second between each shot. It's like 900 milliseconds or something. So if you miss that one shot and it takes 2 or 3, which it definitely does at times, you're probably gonna die. It's got a very awkward fire rate where you're expecting it to shoot faster than it really does. So for me personally, I always got myself killed because I was kind of shooting my one shot. I didn't slide or anything. I would just shoot and kind of strafe a little bit and then try to shoot again, and it would take forever. It would just get me killed. So that is a huge downside to this. Also, you only get 4 rounds per shotgun, which may not sound like much, but considering this is a one-shot shotgun, if you're using it how you should, it can do just fine if you're getting those one shots. Otherwise, you'll pretty much need the whole magazine for each Reclaimer to actually get it down. So with the base gun, it's basically all or nothing. You get that one shot, or there's a really high chance, like incredibly high chance, that you're gonna die. It's just so unforgiving past 2.3 meters, which is basically like melee range. I mean, you could argue you're better off with a melee gun, but the fact that you can one-shot with a dual shotgun is pretty sick. It kind of feels like the marshals from Warzone 1, like a weird alternate dimension version of them, so that is pretty cool. But now I want to talk some ammo attachments. We can put on some ammo types, and the big one, of course, we want to talk about is Dragon's Breath. Dragon's Breath didn't seem to affect the range at all, or the damage. In fact, all it really does is just give you that same damage, but also a burn. So because of the burn ticks, you can deal basically 180 plus about either 10 to 30 extra points of damage, depending on how the burn works, because it's a little inconsistent at times. So you have the capability of basically just doing more damage overall over time. So even though you don't get like a 2-shot down, the burn sometimes kills them. So Dragon's Breath, really not a bad attachment. And since there's not a lot of attachment slots open, you can rock Dragon's Breath just fine. It's not hurting your gun in any way. It's not really making it like extraordinarily better. It is better in my opinion. So if you want to rock it, go ahead. But I know some people don't like Dragon's Breath, but there's really no reason not to. It just helps your damage, gives you that extra burn damage. So it is pretty cool. Now for BOLO shells and 12 gauge slugs, I'm pretty sure these are bugged. The damage doesn't actually change in the advanced stats for either of them. Gonna be honest, I didn't bother even checking them in game. If they're anything to write home about after I do check them at some point, I can make an updated video or something, but I really don't advise using these because not only is the damage not changing apparently, but even if they did work, look at the spread. Like the spread is just gonna make it to where you can't hit anything past blast point blank literally, and it's just going to make things way worse for no extra good trade-off. So just avoid BOLO shells and 12 gauge. I think they're even bugged, so completely avoid them. If you want to see the loadout I have been rocking, here it is. We're rocking the Bryson choke. This is going to help the most with our spread in the muzzle category. You can rock something like a suppressor too, and some of the gameplay uses a suppressor, and this is because like even though the spread is helped a little bit by a choke, it's not going to make it like a make or break or something like that. Since you have to be so close anyway, you can get away with using a suppressor. You can use the full choke to get better range, which is like 4% more range if you want. Whatever helps. This is basically a freebie. Just use whatever you want. I would say either the Bryson choke, the suppressor, like one of the suppressors that hurts range the least, or you can rock something like the full choke. Then we have the Stovall tack laser. This is to help us with our moving hipfire spread. Again, it doesn't really help super much, but this is probably the best of the lasers to keep that as tight as you can. Then I'm rocking Dragon's Breath because why the hell not? You just get extra burn damage, no penalty to range or damage. And then we have the center mass grip tape, and this is just to get a better sprint to fire speed because what else are we going to run? Nothing else really helps that much, so this is the way to go. And this thing has a great sprint to fire speed, by the way. It's very, very good. As for my thoughts on the JAK Devastators, I gotta say I'm pleasantly surprised. They're not super oppressive, and they're really, really bad past 2.3 meters, but the fact that you can one-shot is inherently a really strong feature of a gun like this. And since you have 2 and you have 10 pellets per shot, you have a lot of chances of getting a one-shot kill. But the big trade-off, you gotta be super, super close. The spread is not working in your favor. Outside of that 2.3 meters, it's basically useless. It's like an alternate dimension version of the Marshalls, like I said, or another version of the Lockwood 300 dual trigger where there's like a really good one-shot, but it's a reload between each shot. This feels kind of like that, where there's that one shot, all in or nothing, and then after that it's just kind of stupidly broken in the worst way, meaning it doesn't work well at all. So honestly, I feel like it's fun. It's a fun trade-off. It has its niche. It's somewhat viable. You can have people just kind of run up to you and you just one-tap them. It's really fun, but it's not super oppressive. And I, for one, am just super happy that they're adding things like this into the game that are just downright bonkers. You're dual-wielding a Reclaimer 18, a Spaz 12, dual-wield, like what? And it one-shots people. Super cool. I'm glad they're taking the risk and just throwing in these cool, wacky things, especially for shotguns. It's really fun, and I really appreciate when devs do that. So I'm very happy with this. I don't really think it needs a buff. I really feel like it's fine. If it's any better, it's just going to be a little too much, and then people are going to complain about it. I like how it can one-shot, but it's not super crazy oppressive, and if you use it well, then you can get some good one-shots. Personally, I found the best way to use it was to not just sprint into people, but kind of find when people are coming towards you, maybe bait them towards you, kind of have your guns ready, up and ready to go, so you're not sprinting towards them, and then as soon as they slide in or whatever, jump around the corner, you just one-tap them. I found that walking around corners and kind of having my gun always up and ready to go was one of the better ways to play with this. And then of course, playing the cat and mouse game where you're peeking in and out of corners is a great way if you need to get more than one shot, which I highly don't recommend. In my opinion, it's either that one shot or you're pretty much screwed. So yeah, that's pretty much it. But that's gonna do it for this video, guys. So I want to know down below in the comments, as always, what are all of your thoughts on this aftermarket part? Do you enjoy the JAK Devastators? Do you think it doesn't need a one shot? Do you think it needs to be buffed in some way? And with all that being said, guys, I will see you in the next video.
I got attack eradicator.
Oh, you can do this.
Those are those shotguns.